fearful-avoidant attachment recovery. Heal disorganized attachment and break the push-pull cycle. Build secure love, emotional safety, and lasting relationships without losing yourself, by Elena Dawnton. Introduction. Maya stands in a sun-drenched park in Seattle, watching the light bounce off the water. It is her 1-year anniversary with Liam. For most people, this would be a simple day of joy. For Maya, it is a miracle. A year ago, she couldn't imagine staying with someone for more than 3 months without feeling the walls close in. She used to think of love as a trap, a heavy blanket that would eventually smother her. But today, as Liam reaches over to squeeze her hand, her heart doesn't race with fear. Her breath stays deep and slow. She doesn't feel the urge to pull away or make a joke to ruin the moment. For the first time in her 34 years, she feels safe. She is no longer waiting for the floor to drop out from under her. She is home. This version of Maya, calm, connected, and sure of herself, seems like a stranger to the woman she was just a short time ago. To understand how she got here, we have to go back to a cold Tuesday night in her minimalist apartment. Maya was sitting on her velvet sofa, the blue light of her phone glowing in the dark. A message had just popped up from Liam. They had been dating for 8 weeks. The text was simple. "I had such a great time tonight. I missed you the moment I walked out the door." Most people would smile at a text like that. Maya felt like she was being hunted. Her stomach did a sharp flip. Her palms grew damp. Suddenly, the apartment felt too small, and the air felt too thin. Just an hour earlier, she had been laughing with him, feeling a rare spark of closeness. But that one sentence, "I missed you," changed everything. To her brain, those words weren't a compliment. They were a demand. They were a sign that Liam was getting too close, that he wanted too much, and that he would eventually see the real her and leave. Or worse, he would stay and she would lose herself entirely. She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the block button. She didn't want to block him because he was mean. She wanted to block him because he was kind. She felt a wave of disgust wash over her, a sudden flip that turned her attraction into a need to run. She didn't reply. She put the phone face down and sat in the silence, feeling both incredibly lonely and strangely relieved that she was alone. If this story sounds familiar, you aren't broken, you aren't bad at love, and you aren't destined to be alone. You are likely living with a specific way of connecting called fearful-avoidant attachment. It is a state of being where your heart is a house with the front door wide open and the deadbolt locked at the same time. You want love more than anything, but the moment you get it, you feel like you have to escape to survive. The biological paradox. This struggle isn't just in your head, it is wired into your very survival system. To understand why your brain treats a loving text message like a tiger in the room, we have to look back at a time when the world was in chaos. In 1944, a British doctor named John Bowlby was asked by the World Health Organization to look into a heartbreaking problem. World War II had left thousands of children without parents. These children were being kept in orphanages and hospitals across Europe. On paper, they had everything they needed to survive. They had beds, they had food, and they had clean clothes. But something was wrong. Bowlby noticed that many of these children were failing to thrive. Some stopped growing. Others became totally silent, staring at walls for hours. Some even died, even though they weren't sick with any known disease. The doctors at the time thought love and hugging were just extra things, nice to have, but not necessary like food or water. Bowlby disagreed. He watched these children and realized that the human need for a primary bond, a single person who sees us and protects us, is a biological survival instinct. It is just as vital as oxygen. When a baby is born, it cannot feed itself or run away from danger. It survives only by staying close to a caregiver. This means our brains are literally built to seek out connection. However, for those with fearful-avoidant attachment, something went wrong with this safety system. In a perfect world, the person you go to for love is also the person who makes you feel safe. But for many, the caregiver was also the source of fear. Maybe they were angry, maybe they were unpredictable, or maybe they were so overwhelmed by their own pain that they couldn't see yours. This creates what experts call an unsolvable problem. Your biology tells you to run toward your person for safety, but your experience tells you that people are the danger. You are like a car with one foot slammed on the gas and the other slammed on the brake. You want to get close, but the closer you get, the more your internal alarm bells scream. This is the push-pull cycle. It is an exhausting way to live, but it is a strategy your brain developed to keep you safe when you were small. The glass fortress. When you live with this unsolvable problem for years, you eventually build a defense. Think of it as a glass fortress. From the outside, you look strong, independent, and clear. You might be very successful in your job. You might be the person everyone goes to for advice. You seem like you have it all together. But the fortress is made of glass. It is fragile. And more importantly, it is cold. Inside that fortress, you are protected from the danger of other people, but you are also isolated. You can see the world outside. You can see people laughing, holding hands, and being vulnerable. But you don't know how to let them in without the whole structure shattering. You might find yourself scanning your partner's face for any sign that they are bored, angry, or about to leave. This is your internal security guard. It never sleeps. It takes a tiny thing, a sigh, a late text, a certain tone of voice, and turns it into a catastrophe. You think, I knew it. They don't love me. I need to leave before they can hurt me. This book is about learning how to step out of that fortress. It is about realizing that while those walls saved your life when you were a child, they are now the things keeping you from the life you want. The goal isn't just to stop being afraid. The goal is to reach a state called earned security. Earned security is a beautiful thing. It means that even if you didn't start with a safe foundation, you have built one for yourself as an adult. You have earned your way to a regulated nervous system. You have learned how to stay in the room when things get intense, instead of running for the exit. A new way to see yourself. For a long time, people with fearful-avoidant attachment were told they were difficult or dramatic. Even in the world of psychology, this style was often called disorganized, which makes it sound like a mess that can't be cleaned up. But that isn't the truth. The truth is that you are highly perceptive. Because you had to watch your caregivers so closely to stay safe, you are now an expert at reading people. You can feel the energy in a room change before anyone else does. You are independent, because you had to be. You are resilient, because you have survived a war inside your own heart every single day. When you learn to harness these traits, they become your greatest strengths. Your perceptiveness becomes empathy. Your independence becomes healthy autonomy. Your resilience becomes the bedrock of a relationship that can weather any storm. The path to healing isn't about changing who you are. It is about updating your internal software. Your brain is still running a survival program from 20 or 30 years ago. It thinks you are still that small child in a volatile house. This book will show you, step by step, how to tell your brain that the war is over. You are safe now. You are in charge. Meet Maya. Throughout this book, we are going to follow Maya's journey. Maya is a 34-year-old designer living in Seattle. She is brilliant at her job because she can predict what users want before they even know it. But in her personal life, she feels like a ghost. Maya grew up with a mother who was like a weather system. One minute, she was sunshine and hugs, and the next, she was a hurricane of screaming and tears. As a little girl, Maya learned to hide in the laundry room. She learned that she couldn't count on anyone to be consistent. She learned that the people who say they love you are also the people who can hurt you the most. When we meet her at the start of our journey, Maya is stuck. She meets wonderful men like Liam, but she sabotages the relationships the moment they feel real. She tells herself she is just too independent, or that she hasn't found the right one. But deep down, she is terrified. She is tired of the hot and cold game. She is tired of feeling like an outsider in her own life. Maya's story is the story of how a glass fortress becomes a living garden. A garden still has a fence for protection, but it has a gate that opens. It has soil that is rich and alive. It is a place where things can grow because they are tended to with care. The roadmap ahead. We are going to walk this path together, one step at a time. We aren't going to rush, because rushing feels like flooding to a fearful-avoidant heart, and flooding makes us want to run. We will start by looking at the ghost in the nursery, the early experiences that created your current patterns. We will use the work of pioneers like Mary Ainsworth to understand why you react the way you do. You will see that your disorganized responses actually make perfect sense once you see the environment they grew up in. Then, we will look at the 4 pillars of the fearful-avoidant mind: shame, hypervigilance, boundary confusion, and emotional flooding. These are the things that keep your fortress standing. We will learn how to dismantle them safely. We will spend a lot of time on mastering the art of self-regulation. This is perhaps the most important skill you will ever learn. You will learn how to fix your internal thermostat, so you don't swing between freezing and boiling. You will learn how to stay in the window of tolerance, where you can actually think and feel at the same time. We will talk about the difference between your trauma responses and your genuine intuition. This is a big one for FAs. You've probably been told to trust your gut. But for us, our gut is often screaming danger when the situation is actually safe. We will learn how to calibrate your internal compass. We will also look at the lives of people who have walked this path before us. We will follow the story of Eleanor Roosevelt, a woman who overcame a childhood of deep rejection and a complex marriage to become a model of emotional autonomy and secure connection. Her life shows us that earned security is possible for anyone, no matter where they start. Finally, we will look at how to build and maintain a secure partnership. This isn't just about finding the right person, it's about being the person who can sustain love. We will learn how to have conflict without running away, how to be vulnerable without feeling disgusting, and how to create a secure base that allows both you and your partner to thrive. A promise to you. By the time you reach the end of this book, the push-pull cycle will no longer be the boss of your life. You will be able to receive a text like the one Liam sent Maya and feel a warm glow instead of a cold panic. You will be able to say, "I need some space," without feeling like you are committing a crime. You will be able to sit in a park on your 1-year anniversary and feel like you are exactly where you are supposed to be. The road to recovery isn't about being perfect. There will still be days when you feel a little bit of that old fear. But the difference is that you will know what it is. You will have a toolkit to handle it. You will be the one holding the remote control to your own nervous system. You have spent your whole life protecting yourself from the world. It is a brave way to live, but it is a lonely one. It is time to put down the heavy armor. It is time to see that you are worthy of a love that is steady, safe, and true. You aren't a mess to be fixed. You are a person who is learning how to be safe. And that journey starts right here. Chapter 1. The Ghost in the Nursery. Imagine a pilot in a cockpit, flying through a thick storm. Every dial on the dashboard is spinning in circles. The altitude gauge says he is at 10,000 feet, but the window shows he is skimming the treetops. When he pulls back on the stick to go up, the plane dips down. When he pushes forward, the engine coughs and dies. He is trapped in a machine that is giving him the wrong signals, and every move he makes to save himself only seems to make the danger worse. Halfway across the world, a small kitten is cornered in an alley by a large, barking dog. The kitten's heart is racing. Its instincts tell it to run, but there is a wall behind it. It wants to fight, but it is too small. Suddenly, the kitten doesn't move at all. It doesn't hiss or scratch. It simply goes limp and stares into space. Its body has decided that if it can't flee or fight, it must simply turn off to survive the coming blow. In a quiet, carpeted room in Baltimore in 1969, a scientist named Mary Ainsworth sat behind a one-way mirror, watching a 1-year-old boy play with some blocks. The room was part of a study called The Strange Situation. To any outsider, it looked like a simple playroom. But for the babies inside, it was a series of tests designed to see how they handled the most important thing in their world, their connection to their mother. These 3 scenes, the pilot with the broken gauges, the frozen kitten, and the baby in the playroom, seem like they have nothing to do with each other. But they are actually describing the exact same thing. They are all examples of what happens when a system designed for safety becomes a source of total confusion. For the pilot, it's the plane. For the kitten, it's the alley. For the baby, it's the person who is supposed to love him most. This is the origin of the ghost that follows many people into their adult lives, whispering that love is a trap and safety is a lie. The mystery of the leftover data. Mary Ainsworth was a woman who loved patterns. She had spent years in Uganda and later in the United States watching how mothers and babies interacted. She believed that the way a mother responded to her baby's cries created a map inside the baby's head. If the mother was steady and kind, the baby's map showed the world as a safe place. If the mother was cold, the map showed a world where you had to take care of yourself. In her Baltimore study, Mary put these maps to the test. She had mothers leave their babies in a room with a stranger for a few minutes and then return. Most babies fit into 3 neat categories: Some were secure. They cried when mom left, but were happy and easily calmed when she came back. Some were avoidant. They acted like they didn't care when she left and ignored her when she returned, even though their hearts were actually pounding. They were inconsolable when she left and stayed angry or clingy even after she came back. But there was a small group of children who didn't fit anywhere. They were the outliers. They were the data points that Mary couldn't explain at first. When their mothers walked back into the room, these babies didn't run for a hug, and they didn't ignore her. Instead, they did things that were strange and heartbreaking. One baby started to crawl toward his mother, then suddenly stopped and put his forehead on the floor, staying perfectly still. Another baby turned her back to her mother and froze. Some babies would walk toward their mom with their heads turned away, as if they were being pulled in two directions at once. A few even hit themselves or fell into a trance-like state. Mary Ainsworth knew she was looking at something different. These children weren't just insecure, they were disorganized. Their internal compasses weren't just pointing the wrong way, they were spinning wildly, just like the gauges in the pilot's cockpit. They were facing what Mary eventually called the unsolvable problem. The unsolvable problem. To understand why a baby would freeze or collapse when their mother enters the room, you have to understand how our brains are wired for survival. We are born with an attachment system. It is a biological program that tells us, when you are scared, find your person. In the wild, a baby monkey who doesn't stay close to its mother gets eaten by a leopard. Human babies are the same. We are hardwired to see our caregiver as a safe haven. But what happens when the safe haven is also the source of fear? This is the core of the fearful-avoidant experience. If a mother is frightening, maybe she yells, maybe she is physically rough, or maybe she is just very unpredictable, the baby's brain gets two conflicting orders at the exact same time. Order number 1, you are in danger, run away from the scary person. This is the flight response. Order number 2, you are in danger, run toward your caregiver for safety. This is the attachment response. The baby's brain tries to do both. It tries to run toward the mother and away from her at the same moment. The result is a biological short circuit. The nervous system goes into a state of freeze. This is why those babies in Mary Ainsworth's study would fall to the floor or stare into space. They weren't being bad or weird. They were experiencing a level of internal conflict that the human brain isn't designed to handle. They were trying to find safety in the very place where they felt most threatened. This is the ghost in the nursery. It is the memory of a time when the person you needed most was the person who scared you most. Even if you don't remember it with words, your body remembers the feeling of being trapped in a glass fortress where you can see the love you want, but you are too afraid to let it get close enough to touch you. Maya's secret room. Maya Vance lived in a beautiful, minimalist high-rise apartment in Seattle. Everything in her life was orderly. Her UI/UX designs were clean and perfect. Her kitchen counters were always wiped down. She liked things to be just so because it made her feel like she was in control. But whenever things got too quiet, she could feel a familiar tightness in her chest. One Tuesday night, her boyfriend Liam sent her a text. "I'm so glad we're together. I've never felt this close to anyone." Most people would feel a rush of warmth reading those words. Maya felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Her heart started to race. Her hands went cold. Within minutes, she was looking for reasons to be mad at him. "He's moving too fast," she thought. "He's probably just saying that to manipulate me. He doesn't even know me." She didn't reply. Instead, she went to her closet and sat on the floor among her shoes. It was a habit she didn't like to admit to anyone. Being in a small, dark space made her feel safe. As she sat there, a memory from 25 years ago bubbled up, as clear as a movie. Little Maya was 6 years old. She was in the laundry room of her childhood home, tucked behind the humming dryer. The room smelled like lemon detergent and warm dust. Outside the door, she could hear her mother's voice. Her mother wasn't just talking, she was spiraling. One minute she was crying about how hard her life was, and the next, she was screaming at Maya's older brother. "Maya? Maya, where are you?" her mother called out. Her voice sounded sweet, almost like she was singing. "I need a hug, baby. Come give mommy a hug." Maya felt the unsolvable problem in her bones. She knew that if she went out there, her mother might actually give her a hug. But she also knew that her mother's hugs were tight and desperate, and that the screaming could start again at any second. If she stayed in the laundry room, she was safe, but she was alone. If she went out, she might get love, but she might get hurt. She stayed behind the dryer, holding her breath, her small body frozen in the dark. In that laundry room, Maya's brain was writing a script. It was a script that said, closeness is dangerous. People who say they love you are unpredictable. If you let someone see where you are hiding, they will use it against you. By the time she was 34, Maya had become an expert at hiding behind the dryer of her adult life. She hid behind her work, her sarcasm, and her perfectly decorated apartment. When Liam tried to pull her out into the light with a kind text message, her internal security guard didn't see a boyfriend. It saw the frightening, unpredictable mother from the laundry room. It saw a threat. The 1986 breakthrough, naming the ghost. For a long time, the scientific world didn't have a name for what Maya was experiencing. Mary Ainsworth had seen the behavior in 1969, but she didn't officially create a fourth category for it. She was worried that disorganized sounded too much like a mental illness rather than an attachment style. It wasn't until 1986 that two researchers named Mary Main and Eric Hesse went back and looked at Mary Ainsworth's old tapes. They watched the videos of those leftover babies over and over again. They noticed something very specific. These babies weren't just confused. They were showing signs of fright without solution. Main and Hesse realized that disorganized attachment, which we call fearful-avoidant in adults, happens for two main reasons. The frightening parent. The parent is a source of direct fear through yelling, physical punishment, or intense volatility. The frightened parent. The parent is so overwhelmed by their own trauma, depression, or fear that they act helpless. The baby looks at the parent for safety and sees someone who is even more scared than they are. In both cases, the baby learns that they cannot rely on their internal compass. If they go toward the parent, they get scared. If they stay away, they feel abandoned. This creates a script of chaos. As adults, people with this script often find themselves in relationships that feel like a roller coaster. They want to be close, but as soon as they get the intimacy they crave, the ghost in the nursery wakes up and screams, "Get out, it's a trap." This is why fearful avoidants are often called hot and cold. One day they are the most loving, attentive partner in the world. The next day, they are cold, distant, and looking for the exit. It's not because they are mean or crazy. It's because their nervous system is trying to solve the unsolvable problem that started in their childhood. We often talk about fight or flight, but there is a third response that is much more common for the fearful avoidant: freeze. When a mammal is faced with a predator it cannot outrun, it enters a state of tonic immobility. You've seen this if you've ever seen a fainting goat or a bird that plays dead when a cat catches it. This isn't a choice the animal makes. It's a high-level survival tactic. By freezing, the animal becomes less interesting to the predator. It also numbs its own body, so it won't feel as much pain if it is attacked. For the disorganized child, freezing becomes a way of life. When things at home got too intense, they learned to go away in their minds. They might stare at a spot on the wall or imagine they were in a different place. As an adult, this freeze response shows up as emotional numbness. Have you ever been in the middle of a deep conversation or a small argument and suddenly felt like you were watching yourself from the ceiling? Or felt like your emotions just switched off, leaving you feeling cold and bored with your partner? That is your biological freeze in action. Your brain thinks you are back in the strange situation lab or behind the laundry room dryer. It thinks the person talking to you is a threat, so it shuts down your feelings to protect you. It's trying to save you. But in a healthy relationship, it ends up sabotaging the very connection you want. The script of chaos in adult life. The internal working models that John Bowlby talked about are like the software running in the background of your mind. If your software was written in a nursery where safety was unpredictable, your adult relationships will likely follow 3 specific patterns. Hypervigilance. You become a world-class mind reader. You scan your partner's face for the tiniest change in their expression. If they sigh, you wonder if they're bored of you. If they are quiet, you wonder if they're planning to leave. You are always looking for the first sign of the storm. The 3-month flip. Many fearful avoidants are great at the beginning of a relationship. It feels like a movie. But around the 3-month mark, when things become real and vulnerable, the ghost appears. Suddenly the things you loved about your partner start to annoy you. You feel suffocated. You start looking for reasons to end it before they can hurt you. The push-pull dance. You pull your partner close because you are lonely and want love, but as soon as they get close, you feel panicked and push them away. When they finally give up and walk away, you feel abandoned and pull them back again. It's a cycle that leaves both people exhausted. John Bowlby believed that these patterns weren't character flaws. He argued that they were protest behaviors. They are the cries of a child who never learned that love could be a steady, quiet thing. They are the actions of someone who is still trying to find a safe base in a world they were taught was dangerous. Healing the ghost. If you recognize yourself in Maya's closet or in Mary Ainsworth's leftover data, it can feel overwhelming. You might feel like you are broken or that your brain is just wired wrong. But there is a very important piece of news that Mary Ainsworth and John Bowlby discovered later in their lives. Attachment styles are not a life sentence. They are internal working models. Just like a pilot can get his gauges fixed, or a software engineer can rewrite a buggy code, you can move from disorganized to what psychologists call earned security. Earned security means that even if you didn't get a safe start in the nursery, you can build a safe foundation in your adult life. It starts with understanding that your crazy reactions aren't crazy at all. They are logical responses to an illogical past. It starts with learning to look at the ghost and saying, I see you, but you aren't the boss of me anymore. Maya didn't stay in her shoe closet forever. Eventually, she realized that sitting in the dark was a way of staying 6 years old. She started to learn that Liam wasn't her mother. She started to learn that a text message wasn't a trap. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But by understanding the why behind her panic, she began to take the power away from the ghost. Finding the neutral. The first step in healing a disorganized pattern is learning how to find the neutral. Because your system is so used to swinging between high alert, anxiety, and total shutdown, avoidance, you have to teach your body what it feels like to just be okay. This isn't about being happy or in love. It's about being calm. When the fearful-avoidant ghost wakes up, it usually starts in the body. You might feel a buzzing in your arms, a knot in your stomach, or a sudden desire to look at your phone and ignore the person sitting next to you. These are the signals from your broken gauges. Today, your goal isn't to fix your whole life or solve your childhood trauma. Your goal is simply to notice when your internal security guard is overreacting. Your practical action step. At least 3 times today, stop whatever you are doing and perform a safety inventory. You don't need to be in a relationship or even around people to do this. Check your body. Are your shoulders up near your ears? Is your jaw clenched? Is your breath shallow? Look around the room. Find 3 things that are physically safe. For example, the floor is solid under my feet. The chair is holding my weight. The roof is keeping out the rain. State the fact. Say to yourself out loud if you can, I am not in the laundry room. I am not in the lab. In this exact moment, I am physically safe. By doing this, you are starting to recalibrate your gauges. You are teaching your brain to distinguish between a memory of danger and a reality of safety. You are beginning the work of showing the ghost that while it may have a place in your history, it no longer has a seat at your table. Tomorrow we will look at how this glass fortress was built and why we often push away the very love we are starving for. But for today, just focus on the floor beneath your feet. It's solid. It's holding you. And for the first time in a long time, Chapter 2. Why do we push away the love we crave? In 1983, a psychologist named William Swan sat in a lab at the University of Texas, watching people make choices that didn't seem to make any sense. He was running a study on how we see ourselves. He gathered a group of students and gave them a test to see how they felt about their own value. Some students felt great about themselves. Others felt like they weren't very smart, likable, or talented. After the test, Swan told the students they were going to meet someone new. He gave them 2 descriptions of people they could talk to. Person A was someone who would give them glowing praise and tell them how wonderful they were. Person B was someone who would be more critical and point out their flaws. Logic says everyone should pick person A. Who doesn't want to be told they are great? But that isn't what happened. The students who had a low opinion of themselves chose person B. They actually preferred to spend time with someone who saw them in a negative light. Swan called this self-verification theory. He realized that human beings have a deep, driving need for the world to match what they believe about themselves. If you believe you are broken or unlovable, you will actually feel stressed and confused when someone treats you like you are a treasure. A compliment feels like a lie. A kind gesture feels like a trick. You push away the love you crave because your brain is trying to protect the truth of your own identity. For the fearful avoidant, this isn't just a theory. It is a daily battle. In 1884, a little girl was born in New York City who would eventually become the most famous woman in the world. Her name was Eleanor Roosevelt. On paper, her life looked perfect. She was born into a family of incredible wealth and power. Her uncle was Theodore Roosevelt, who would later become